Hello, Sammi. Welcome to Ebb and Glow.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super, super excited to be here.
Before I tell the audience anything about you, I just want to point out the fact that you are 19 years old. Second year university doesn't seem that long ago, but damn, you are achieving a lot more than I was doing in second year. So, welcome, Sammi. Sammi Reyes is an undergraduate student at San Diego State. So, she is coming from sunny California. And on top of being a full time student, she is a motivational speaker, a social media marketer, the host of her own podcast. And throughout her own life experiences, Sammi has learned so much about how a person can reach the next level of their life and how they can find more time to pursue the things they love. Today, Sammi speaks to many high schoolers and college students across the country and reaches a global audience through her podcast to spread that message. It's clear that Sammi has more than 24 hours in the day. I don't know how she's done it, but she is doing it. So, talk to me what's going on in your life currently. Tell me what you're working on and up to these days, what you're doing in university, why the podcast that you started.
Yeah, so right now my main focus is passion coaching and social media marketing, helping people find their real passion in life and pursue it while they're in their 9 to 5. I have a bunch of nonprofits who have impacted my life. I have a bunch of my friends who I'm running for their personal brands where I manage their social medias for them. And I really help them grow to expand their goal audiences. I somehow get everything done in 24 hours in a day. And I think the main reason why I do that is because I'm just so passionate about all of it. I love my major. I love what I'm doing, outside of school. The podcast was what sparked everything I'm doing today. And I remember my public speaking teacher came up to me after one of our motivational speeches we had done in our class. And she said, Sammi, that speech was good, but I think you should start a podcast to do smaller speeches just like that one. And I was like, are you crazy? As prep for the motivational speech unit, she had introduced us to people like Ed Milet, Rachel Hollis, Lewis Howes, like all those spectacular people who run amazing podcasts. And then she wanted me to create one. I was like, that's the most insane thing I've heard. But she's like, Sammi, she's like, I think you'll be good at it because A, you love to talk, B, you love to inspire, and C, whenever you put your mind into something, you just go for it full force. And I'm happy to say that conversation happened almost 2 years ago now, and we're 63 episodes deep. I've had major, major influencers. I've had major CEOs, and it's the thing that's changed my life the most.
I love that. I remember being at your age, well, younger than you actually, so high school. So, I did public speaking in high school and I would have loved to jump right into a podcast after public speaking. I found public speaking kind of hard because you actually had to write this full essay. It wasn't like podcasting where you just go off the cuff and it'd be more conversational. You're just like going through the whole thing and memorizing it. I'm like, am I on track to be a politician? What am I working towards here?
When you told me that your podcast hadn't even started yet, I was so excited for you because there's so much that's going to happen to you and your life is going to change so much. Part of my marketing agency is I help people start podcasts. And one of my clients, she helps high school students edit their college essays to get into college. And she's like, I want to start a podcast. So I help her walk her through the entire thing. And she's 3 episodes deep now, all about different aspects of how to get into college, how you can gauge what colleges are right for you. And she's providing so much valuable information. And bonus that she loves it at the same exact time. And that's exactly why I do what I do.
You speak a lot about your high school teacher as your mentor. How would your life look now if you didn't have that mentor in your life? Because it seems like she's made a huge impact in your life so far.
Yeah, what a question. Wow. I constantly think about this because I'm one to reflect very often. I know how I got here and I know why it happened. And none of this would even be close to what I would be able to do if it wasn't for her. I remember the first time I wanted to talk to her, and like it just so happened that my public speaking period was the last period of the day. So I got that little cushion of after school to talk to her too. I've always been a teacher's pet, so it's just like second nature to me. I had started talking to her about this book that her colleague had gifted to me. And we just started going into why we both felt so called to read the book. It was The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. Such a good book. Changed my life. The final semester of high school, we have a senior project we have to do. So I did my podcast and I asked her to be my mentor because she was just so involved in the process originally. I would go to her classroom every single day, ask her a question about my personal life, business. And then she would always ask me about Instagram questions and like, how the heck do I do Instagram? And then I had another teacher who also was a part of the Instagram space and was building a brand on Instagram. And so all three of us would have little powwows all the time. We just go and sit with each other and just have lunch and just talk Instagram and talk how we're growing our audiences. And we just develop that relationship. I was honestly really struggling my senior year before the podcast, before I became stable in my job, and before I found a really good tribe to be with. And there were so many times where I walked in for classroom like, crying. It was a constant thing. So she was just my backbone through all of that. She really is my second mother for sure. My parents, they give me so much good advice and they support me wholeheartedly, but they're both in the 9 to 5. She is also in a 9 to 5 because she's a teacher, but she also knows the ways of how not to do 9 to 5. I'm so happy that I decided to reach out to her because she just has this dream big mentality. I honestly have to say that she really just saved my life, period. It's been such a wild road and she's just been there every step of the way. And she's, always there to answer my questions and just be a guide for me.
When people go into education to be an educator, I think that is the vision that they have. They're hoping to inspire young minds. I'm sure a lot of them are writing that as their vision and affirmation. But how do you go and find a mentor? I don't have a mentor right now. If someone came up to you and you're like, how do I find a mentor? What would you recommend to them right now?
Yeah, so I first want to decipher a mentor from a peer because a mentor is someone who is a level or 2 levels or 3 levels above you, they're where you want to be. And then a peer is in the same space and the same level you are. So in terms of Instagram, she is my peer. We're both in the same spot. But in terms of life in general, she's my mentor. She's where I want to be. First, find a mentor who maybe you can't get directly in contact with, but you can follow and look at and see what their process was. I have mentors who don't even know that they're my mentor. And my life, Rachel Hollis, Jasmine Starr, all these people, I follow them religiously. I learned all about their life. I could tell you where Edmund was born and went to college and what he majored in because I wanted to know his process. I could tell you, what Rachel Hollis did before she became famous. I could tell you what she's doing right now behind the scenes. But then if you want what I call a more impactful mentor, so someone you can contact more often and someone you could really develop a relationship with, I would say if you're in school, reach out to your professors and say, "Hey, let's hop on Zoom or let's grab coffee," or even past teachers, high school teachers. I know some of my teachers who I talked to when I was in high school, I'm closer to now. I think if you're in school, just reach out to a few people and see who you jive with. That's really about the energy that you give off to each other.
You'll find people that are willing to help you out in some way. Even just recently, I've had people asking to connect someone like younger to me, and I'm so willing. I don't have all the answers, but I'm always happy to help.
I remember when I was working on my mentor's website for her, she would call me and we were literally on the phone for an hour and a half, like every other week. Every time I hung up with her, the energy that I had in my body, not even because we were talking about stuff that I was going to do, but just because I was talking to her and she just exuded this energy, that's the most important part. I was just so excited about life after every time I got off the phone with her. I met up with her before I left New York in August, and I was just so excited about life, so ready to come out to California, and do the things I'd always dreamed of. And so I think, just finding someone who you look at and say, damn, I wish I had their life. And not being afraid to go out and be like, hi, I know you don't always do well, but I would like to grab coffee with you. Let's chat, talk about, what you do, how you got there, and then just go from there. If it doesn't work out the first time, then it doesn't work out.
Now, all that being said, Sammy, any of our listeners
Yeah.
listening to you now, they're probably thinking, damn, this 19-year-old got it all together. Like, can she be my mentor? But from what I've heard from you and from what I've listened to your own podcast, it wasn't always this cool and positive. You've had your own troubles, and I know one example in particular when you moved away from university and your parents followed you and
Yeah.
losing your childhood home, like because your family was moving. And I know you battled with a lot of mental health and depression. So
Wow.
tell me the times when things weren't going so great.
Yeah, of course. I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but a lot of the time when I hop on podcasts and people ask me, what do you do? And oh, you're 19 doing all these things. It just seems so like So it was like a 1, 2, 3 checklist. And I've got to say that it didn't happen that way. And I don't wish it did either. I started to learn pain at a very young age. My grandfather's family, his siblings, just weren't in the best of health. And so they started to pass away very quickly, one after the other. And then my uncle passed away from cancer. I hate to say it, but they were dropping like flies. Me being the empath I am, I just felt all the emotions of my family so much. And it killed me every day. Depression and anxiety run in my family. And so I knew it would pop up at some point. But the way it popped up in my life, I didn't really know what it was. I never experienced it before. So when it came up at 12 years old, I just thought I was just having a bad week. And then that was it. Then it lasted. I know a lot of parents will say to their kids, like, I just want to take away all your pain from you. But everyone experiences some sort of pain in their life because that's what helps you grow. That's what you learn from.
And you're also going in starting to get into those teenage years. So family might be like, oh, it's just a phase. She's going through the teenage years. She's cranky, stubborn,
Yeah,
moody, you know?
exactly. I mean, I wasn't ambitious anymore. I wasn't myself. I've always been ambitious since I was a little girl. And so I just always knew what I wanted. And so I wasn't ambitious anymore. I wasn't getting my homework done really quickly. And so I lived with that for a few years.
I'm sure even at 12 years old, you know you're like something's up here. Something's not the same. Something's different.
Yeah, I knew something was up. I just didn't know what it was. I couldn't put a name to it. And also, I'm not the closest to my parents either. And so I didn't really tell them a lot about it. I just sort of dealt with it on my own. I carried on with my everyday life. But I was fighting pretty much with myself. Like I just survived middle school somehow. I really don't know how I did it. And then I got into high school and I remember it was like the middle of my freshman year of high school. And I went up to my teacher and I go, hey, I need some help. I feel like I'm drowning and I can't pull myself above water. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm not sure. And I remember that because it was like I would go home every single day and I would watch television until 8 o'clock at night. And then I would start my homework, but just what was due the next day that I needed to get done. And again, it wasn't like me at all. I always got my homework done first thing. And I just thought, okay, maybe high school is a little bit harder. I'm getting into some harder stuff. I don't have as much time as I used to. And then 10th grade, my English teacher, she tasked us with an inquiry project where we came up with our own question and we had to answer it. And it was based off of like one of the books we read. So my question was, why do teen mental health suffer and what impacts it? And how does it impact their friends, family, coworkers, classmates? And so mine was based off of One Who Flew the Cuckoo's Nest, which is a book all about a guy who gets put in a psych ward, has to deal with his own mental health. I studied Perks of Being a Wallflower. I studied Anne Frank's diary. Read a bunch of articles about mental health. And from there, I was like, wait, am I depressed? Am I anxious? This kind of resonates with me.
But 7 years ago, no one
Yeah.
spoke about this. It was happening a lot. It's always been happening, but no one had
Yeah.
words to put on it. But I'm sure anyone who was feeling the way you did just knew something was
Yeah.
off. So I'm sure you're thankful to read these books and kind of put some words and phrases around it. But tell me, what else did you learn?
I realized for me, it's part of my genetics. And I also saw that social media is a big factor. I know for me, I'm an old soul. So I say I'm 19 going on 35. And so I didn't really want to have social media in high school. I was like, it's a waste of my time. I had better things to be doing. And so ninth and 10th grade, I didn't have Instagram. I had Facebook, but I barely used it. And so I didn't know the impacts of like what the social media land was like. And I didn't know that people Photoshop their photos, they Facetune their photos, and they just only show the highlight reel. And, people compare so much to each other. Like, I didn't know any of that because I wasn't a part of that life. And so learning that was super intriguing. And now that I'm using Instagram all the time, when I see how much of like the highlight reel is shown, I just think that the biggest thing from that project was just learning about things that I'm going to have to deal with years to come.
Walk me through the steps when you're able to say, like, hey, like, I think I have anxiety. I think I have depression. Something's up with my mental health. That's clear. What do you do after that? Do you talk to someone? Do you go get medication? I am actually not versed in this world at all, so I'd love to hear the actual steps that you would take when you realize something's up.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said before, I'm not really that close to my parents. And so I had been chatting with my school guidance counselor for a little bit now. And she's like, Sammy, I'm always here for you, but I think you need a little bit more support than just me. She's like, I think you should go to therapy. And I was like, so how do I tell my parents this? And she was like, do you want me to tell them? So she called my mom and she explained to her what was going on. And my mom texted me and she goes, why did I get a call from your guidance counselor saying you should go to therapy? And I was like, I just think it's a good idea. I was like, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm kind of stressed out. And so luckily my aunt's a social worker. And so she knew the people in the area and she found with me in the moment and sort of helped me begin to uncover a lot of the things that I had been suppressing for a while that I just held inside myself. And then I left the country. So my fall semester of junior year, I took a semester abroad to Israel. I call that the best and worst semester of my life. I loved being able to explore the people I met, the foods I ate, just the sights I saw were just truly life changing. But also, it made my anxiety and my depression a lot worse. And I remember coming back my junior year, my entire school, they were going at like why I left, like they were still happening. And so, well, my friends were in this close friend group, and I just came back and I'm culture shocked with the whole thing. And I remember I was so afraid of myself pretty much. I was always turning my back to see if anyone was watching me. I was always afraid about, what if I trip? What if I drop this? What if I drop that? What if I see the wrong thing? All the what ifs filled my brain. And I just like, didn't know what to do. I needed to have someone standing next to me in order for me to like, feel okay. And so that's when I knew maybe I should go back into therapy. So I found a brand new therapist and she was just my go-to gal. She really helped me to alleviate that anxiety. She helped me to organize my own thoughts too, because I have a racing mind and do 16 things at once. And I need to, have sort of order in my brain in order for me to get anything accomplished. And so that was what the end of junior year into senior year was like.
But Sammy, then you're going through that in grade 11, grade 12 of high school, and then you're jumping off another cliff and going into university. For me, it's like I was comfortable in high school. I felt that I knew my place. And then when I went to university, I went to a different province, similar to you, I left home. And it was like starting all over again. Did that flare up anxiety again? How was that?
So my last semester of high school, I was pretty stable. I was, just loving life at the time. And then I moved cross country. I moved from New York to California. I left everything I've ever known. I left some of the closest people in my life, my mentor, my best friends, and I was devastated because I had spent 18 years finding these people and then I finally got close to them my final year of high school and now I had to leave them. So much emotion. First semester, so depressed, so depressed. I barely got through school. I realized part of it was because my major was just not something I was passionate about anymore. And then also because I left every single person I've ever known. And so a little lot, and a lot of things changed.
I found for me when I went to university, I thought I knew who I was in high school, but you know yourself as a group. You know yourself as your tribe. There's a lot more comfortability around it. So, well, I went to university at 18, 19, and honestly, it wasn't until maybe 6 years later that I feel like I really started coming into my own and realizing, like, who am I as an individual person? Not who am I because I have this job, because I have this friend group, because I do this activity, like, take all that away, like, who am I? And I'm still trying to figure that out every single day. Now, as I've said many, many times, you are a very confident, positive person, but what do you do daily to become that? Because that's not innately in us, especially if someone's daily struggling with anxiety and depression. You have to almost train your mind like a muscle to become the type of person that you are and always becoming. So, what do we do every day to get us into that mindset, I wonder?
Yeah, and you're so right. No one tells you how hard it's going to be to find your true self. People always throw around that word and say, oh, attend this event to find yourself and attend this event to find who you're calling, something like that. But no one tells you how hard the real work is, the journaling, the the meditation, the reflection, all those different pieces. That's really how I've come to this point. I fell into a beautiful gratitude practice when I came back from Israel, and I've continued it every day since then. And that is like the main thing that has helped me through it is writing down 5 things every single morning that happened the day before that I'm so freaking glad they happened, whether it's a business win or a personal win or whatever it is. And then also writing down my goals. So basically, Rachel Hollis invented this method where you write down your goals as if they already happened. And then it's like 10 goals. For me, it'd be like, oh, I have $10,000 on the podcast, or I am a world renowned speaker. And so I started doing that process, and it really helped me to infiltrate my mind. And it reminds me every single day of the things that I'm working towards. And then the biggest thing for me was finding that thing that I love to do and can pursue for the rest of my life. And it went in and out, which is why my sort of mental health went in and out too, because I'm pursuing everything to something that I like to do. It is changing the game. I posted something yesterday on Instagram, and it was all about like if your dreams are worth fighting for. And I was saying how although every single day the task seems so daunting to do, I remember that in 2, 3, 4 years from now, I will be running a 6, 7 figure business with a team with an office. I remember those things. I'm like, okay, that's why I'm working so hard for right now. That's why I'm staying up until 2, 3 a.m. and doing all the work and getting up at 7 and starting it all over again.
I heard a quote once, and it always sticks with me is we overestimate what we can
Mhm.
do in a day, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year or 5 years or 10 years. So a lot of the times, and what I mean by that is we write out our to-do list for the day and it's like we know we can accomplish all that, but like then the day happens and we beat ourselves up over maybe only getting 3 out of those 10 things to do. But sometimes when we write down our goals and aspirations for 5, 10 years, they're honestly not that big. We don't realize what we could accomplish in that span of time because we have no concept of how long that is and how the stuff we do daily very much compounds into huge, huge accomplishments. And in saying that, what else would you tell our audience? Even the stuff that you're going through at 19 is the same stuff I'm going through at 27. You talk a lot about you feel that your mental health was getting better as you started to feel out what you were really passionate about. But I Sammy, to be honest, I know people 60 years old and they're still trying to think about what they wanna do when they grow up, you know what I mean? So, how does people figure that out? Do most people just, like, stumble upon it? Like, if someone's today working a 9 to 5 and they're like, "You know what? This is not the be all end all," not everyone wants to go start their own business or start their own podcast or be an Instagram influencer, but how do they figure out what they actually like?
Yeah, I pride myself in developing this 3-step process that many have said is impactful and has helped to sort of envision what they want for the rest of their lives. And I think that the biggest thing is what I want to say is that I'm pursuing the things as a business and as my career that I'm passionate about and that I love to do. That's not the case for every person, and that may not be the case for you. Well, the first step of the process is to find what makes you happy every single day. And some people can get it like an instant. So for me, it's helping others. For others, they say, I don't know what it is. And so what I say to that is go out and explore, go live your life, go have fun, go do the things you've always wanted to do, whether it's water skiing or parasailing, go out and do those things, cross off your bucket list. And I bet you'll find something you love to do and you want to come back to every single day. And so that's sort of the exploration, what I call it. And that's my biggest tip. You can be pursuing your 9 to 5 and you have this to the money, but you have enough time in your day to go out after school or after work, before work, whatever it is, in the middle of work during lunch break and do something you love. Right. So during my lunch break in high school, I would go and record a podcast or episode or two. And I would weave it into my day. And my enjoyment, my classes that maybe weren't the most fun were so much better. And so it's more about just loving your life a little bit more than it is about finding your dream career, finding the thing you want to do for the rest of your life. My thing is I just want every person in this world to be joyous. I want every person to feel what it feels like to have joy in their life and to be positive, uplifting, joyous person for the majority of days of their life. Number two is to realize that's your passion. It's going to change. It may change every single day. It may change by the month. It may change by the year. After what was it? 7 years of me wanting to be a teacher, my whole life changed. Now I'm an entrepreneur. When you pursue something you love every single day, every single week of your life, you develop this energy inside of you that makes you a fireball, makes you want to run so fast that you don't know how to stop. For me, every time I get off interviews like this, or interviews that I'm conducting myself, or I get off a coaching call, I am tired, fired up, and I'm ready to go. And that is the thing. That's the energy you need. There are days where I can't get out of bed, but then at 8 o'clock at night, I remember that tomorrow I have a podcast and ready to prep for. And then I'm out of bed, ready to go in my pajamas, like my hair's all on a mess. I'm at my desk, planning for the interview because that's what gets me fired up inside.
I shouldn't have done this podcast with you in the evening because I'm getting fired up and I am not going to end up going to bed tonight. Mind you, I drank coffee at like 4 o'clock p.m. my time and it's almost 8 my time. I want to ask you a couple more questions. I know you said you had to leave at 8, but I'm going to steal you for a little longer. One question I like to ask people in my everyday life, and I think maybe I'll make it into a podcast thing. What was your high and low of the past week? So a high point and a low point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, today's been a crazy day, as you know. I think that the high, at least for today, has been three of my clients started a really cool social media campaign for a Jewish holiday. And I was able to prep everything yesterday and it's getting a really, really good response. People are loving it. So that's super, super cool. And then I think a low for today or this past week, I went through a very brief depressive episode last week. And again, just goes to show that there's like ebbs and flows. Like just life just goes up and down. And I was unable to get work done from Tuesday evening to Thursday evening. And I had to catch up all day Friday. I sat at this desk right here. And I did not move from my desk at all. And I just worked. And I cleaned up my room. And then I was, feeling so much better. Luckily, I caught up on Friday and Saturday. But that would sort of have to be my low for the week.
Do you find when you have low points like that and low energy and just what I am not motivated to do that? I know for me, and I don't know if you feel the same. I give myself a little bit more grace now because if I force it and say like I need to be doing work like now, even though I don't feel like it, I really work myself up. So now I just like let myself have grace and be like, if you need a day, just take the day. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I'll call it like burnout sort of. They come in different forms. And so some of them they're easy enough where I can just power through it and get my stuff done that I need to get done and then relax the rest of the night. And then unfortunately there are some where I just can't do anything and I absolutely just shut the world out. And so unfortunately that was what this one was. And I didn't answer any of my text messages for that, 2-day period. And I didn't answer any emails or anything, didn't even attend any classes or any meetings. But again, yeah, I gave myself grace. I was like, you know what? Whenever I get out of like, I'm gonna take care of myself and speed up the time in which I get better. But whenever that's when I'm gonna commit to catching up. Luckily, I have many understanding people in my life. One of my bosses, it goes through the same thing too, and so she's completely understanding about it. So it was easier for me to sort of say, "Hi, I may not be able to get to you right away."
What do those days look like? Is it just laying in bed, or just chilling, reading, just dark room with your pajamas on? Because that's kind of what those look like for me.
Yeah, it's my hair's in a bun. I'm in my pajamas all day in my bed, just watching things that can numb my mind down. I'm not really a big TV person, so I watch gamers on YouTube. And then I will scroll through Instagram. Maybe I'll interact with a few posts here and there, just like get my mind off of things. And then I'll take a nap and just reflect on maybe why this happened. And I'll go and I'll drive to get some of my favorite foods, whether it's, a quesadilla from across the street or, whether it's pizza down the road, like whatever it is, what we got to do.
Carbs, ice cream, wine, you name it. I will have them all during those types of days at all the same time, too. Okay, I know you have to get going. So plug yourself. Tell people where to find you. You are a ray of rayas of frigging shine, and you are going far. once all this COVID stuff is done, you will be on stages, no doubt. And I can't wait to whether be in the audience of one or see it online somewhere. So, where can people find you? Plug for me.
Yes, I am basically everywhere. Instagram at Sammy Beatrice, SammiBeatrice. Also at Fashion Your Passion Podcast. My website where you can find all of this in case you lost it is SammiReyes.com, SammiReyes.com. Podcast is on every podcast platform, Fashion Your Passion Podcast.
I'll put everything in the show notes. To close it out, is there anything that you want to conclude and leave the audience with? Anything left unsaid?
Whatever it is you want to do, whether it's big, small, you think it's so stupid, think people are going to make fun of you for it, just go do it. Like, why do you care so much about what they think? It should be for you because you should love what you're doing.
I love that. And I appreciate you so much for saying that. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've had a very busy day, so I'm happy you squeezed me in.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.